Hello, and let's get started with our first lecture. This will be the basics. We'll be teaching the basics of, we'll be learning the basics of cybersecurity here. Okay, I can take up questions after I am through some of the topics, and there are assignments which will help you learn more on these topics. So let's get started without any further delays. This is a slide of around 800 pages, and I think this will cover most of the topics you'll need to uh, learn to in order to get a good understanding on cybersecurity and like get a job wherever you need to be. Uh, this the 845 pages, 835 pages which are there, it has like all 10 domains which we need to learn in order to get a job and understand the basic and working principles of cybersecurity. So I have designed these uh, slides in a way that it is easy to read and easy to remember. I have uh, I have created visual representations as well so that it's fun and interactive to learn. Based on these slides, we have assignments which will be given to you, which you will be you can take after like finishing this lecture and going to the portal. The assignments which we have given, they are very practical, and these are the type of questions which you'll be asked in the interview. So do take care while doing those assignments. Okay, don't just copy paste. Use the internet, use it wisely, get information from the internet, and make some short answers, short 2 3 point answers for each of the questions. They'll carry some points as well. Okay, so let's get started. This is the agenda for the meeting uh, for today's lecture, but don't need to, these are blah blah blah, all this you can just see here. Don't need to know this. Course objective, you can just see. This is the course content. The entire duration of course will be on these topics. So these are the basic cybersecurity topics. Apart from those, these will be also covering will be covering business continuity management, and we'll be covering security of the cloud. We'll also be talking about securing applications and app dev security. Okay. So let's move on to our first lecture. Before that, yeah, these are the book. I don't tell you to have these books, but if you can grab a free PDF version from somewhere, that will be really helpful. That you might get a deep insight knowledge on these topics. Okay, and this is the plan of our lecture. So let's get started with the first thing. So uh, this is the very basic what a computer asset is. Computer asset is nothing but hardware, software, and data. Okay, and assets needs to be protected. Like in order to secure your data, in order to secure your information, you need to secure your assets, and assets means hardware, software, and data. Okay, so that just keep that in mind. Not very important, but just for I need to know information. Yeah. Also, I wanted to touch upon the difference between cybersecurity and information security before we dive in deep into the course. Okay, so cybersecurity is a, how do I call it? Uh, it's a subset of information security. Okay, information security uh, has cybersecurity. Information security will contain cybersecurity, but cybersecurity alone will not contain the entire information security part. Information security can be anything related to securing information. It does not have to do about only computers. It can be securing physical security of data, backup security of data, business continuity of data, all those will come under information security. However, in cybersecurity, we talk about network security, we talk about uh, uh, all these things like which are related to computer security. Okay. Okay. Let's move on to the next one. Okay. So this slide, I don't think it's of much use, but we have classified our assets into hardware, software, and data. I think we learned this in class one when we start using computers, so no need to learn this. Okay. Now, a very important topic, which is like every interviewer's favorite topic, and this will be asked in interviews. Yeah, so we can talk about this. So this is that is vulnerability threat control paradigm. Okay, what is a vulnerability? Vulnerability is a weakness in the system that might be exploited. Okay, so think of it as a gap, a weakness which can be exploited by an attacker to to get advantage, to get some confidential information, or to like break into the system. Okay, that's a vulnerability. Vulnerability. Suppose let's talk about it in a real world scenario. Uh, yeah, suppose yes. Let's say we have okay. Let's talk about our borders with our neighboring country, Pakistan. Okay, so it's a very porous border. So and the border control mechanism is vulnerable to attacks. It's susceptible. It's not fully foolproof system. So uh, attacker, the armies from Pakistan, they can enter right through these borders or do something like that. That's a vulnerability which is there in our border management system. What is a threat? So in the same example, if we see the Pakistan army is a threat to us. Okay, so one vulnerability is the porous border, threat is the uh, Pakistan army, and attack is when Pakistan army wants to like enter through this border, that's an attack. Okay, and control is like if we make a foolproof fenced, electrified border fencing, then it's a control which we can put in place. So uh, I'll just need you to learn these definitions, okay? Because I know you will be knowing these terms because it's a simple English word. However, you need to know the exact definition of vulnerability and threat and control. Okay, so just learn them. Uh, Try to have a good sentence for them whenever someone asks. Okay, yeah. Let's move on. Okay, so this is one more scenario. Okay, it's a graphical representation of these bit of words. Okay, so if you see here, what is the vulnerability here? This is a wall. It has a crack in it, so that's a vulnerability. Okay, what is a threat? Threat is the rising water level. If the water level rises to the point uh, of the crack, then it will enter it and it might damage the wall. What is the attack? Okay, so attack is if someone deliberately is trying to pump in more water and fill this faster than usual, then that's an attack. Okay, control is either plaster the entire thing or fix the wall before the water level reaches there. So that is like it's a real world example of what we have been talking. Okay, let's move on to security triad, the CIA. This is the building block of fundamental of cybersecurity. Okay, so CIA is not central investigating agency, but confidentiality, integrity, and availability, the three major principles of cybersecurity. Okay, so these three, when combined, these are the principles on which we secure our systems. These are the principles which require us to secure our information systems. So having whenever we are designing control, whenever whenever we are designing a control or whenever sorry, whenever we are designing some security control, we need to keep all three of these in mind when doing it. Because if we only think about confidentiality, we might end up not ensuring integrity of the data or availability of the data. If we think only about integrity of our systems, then we might end up losing availability or precious data moments. So all three have to work in tandem to actually guarantee security of a system. Right. So I think the word are self-explanatory. They'll confidentiality means anything to keep data confidential, like to keep ability of a system to ensure that an asset is viewed by only authorized party. That's a good definition which we have here. You can like just learn it, or you can form your own definition, or have a better definition. Just know it when someone asks you to have should be able to have a good answer in English. Okay. And integrity is anything. Integrity is it's all about the uh, to ensure that an asset is modified by only authorized party. No unauthorized tampering of file happen. That is ensuring integrity. Availability is ensuring data is available when you need it, and that can be when an authorized party wants to see it. All right. So these are the three building block principles of security. Apart from these three, we do have two add-ons, okay, which is authentication and non-repudiation or accountability. Okay. So these are like so. Uh, Authentication, accountability forms two more additional properties of security. Authentication is when you need to authenticate some user into uh, into the system. Like you need to authenticate using a password or something. That's an authentication principle. Non-repudiation or accountability principle is like when someone has sent some data to receiver, they cannot deny having sent it. So this principle is we'll talk about it in its application in next classes, but understand of it as like you cannot deny having sent a message or something uh, to someone if you have sent it. So it's like this is this is mostly to do with digital signatures and evidence preservation. All that is very useful in digital forensics stuff. Okay. So also we talk about the AAA principle. Apart from these five, we'll also talk about AAA, the principle of the AAA principle, which is authentication, accountability, and uh, authorization. We'll talk about those later. But yeah, let's move on to the next one. Okay. So this is just what confidentiality is. Okay. Fail. You can read through this, but yeah, the major thing to just remember is only authorized person, program, or process can access protected data. That is the principle of confidentiality. These are some of the pointers where failure of data confidentiality happens. Okay. What is integrity? What does integrity require? You can read through this, but I don't like force you to. I cannot like this is I think basic English, and you should be able to grasp it very quickly. Yeah. Let's move on. Availability. Okay, so availability. Yeah, we have spoken about availability in the previous slides. We'll talk about it more. So availability is like when everything to do with data centers and like physical security of data centers, availability of like data in various geographical regions, no server downtime, performance increment, fault tolerance, usability. So see on the right side, you can see some circles drawn. Those are the four things which comprise, which make a system available or unavailable. So if we are talking about capacity, if the system is flexible enough to handle loads. We call it is a elastic system, and it will be available throughout the load. And again, we talk about fault tolerance, where we have redundant systems in place to handle load. And if something happens to one of the computers, the load will be transferred to the redundant system, and it won't affect the availability. The data will be available as it was. Okay. So these are some of the like jargons which we used when we talk about cyber attacks. Okay, so let's see them. Okay, interception. You would have heard about man in the middle attack. What happens there in man in the middle? So sender A is sending something to receiver B. Okay, if some third person interrupts he intercepts this message, okay, and reads whatever was being shared, so if the confidentiality of the data is lost here, right? So that's interception. Interruption would be uh, if someone is trying to make a radio connection with someone else. Okay, let's say they are trying to communicate over a radio frequency. If someone is putting a jammer to not allow them to talk, so that's interruption of the signals, correct? So in that case, availability of the data will be lost. Availability will be lost. Okay, and let's say someone modifies this data. Someone is trying to send something, however a third person intercepts it and modifies and then sends it. So in that case, we say integrity of the data is lost. Okay, let's say someone fabricates some false evidence or something, and in that case also integrity of the data is lost. Okay, and these are some terms just to see. These are pointers which we have discussed in the earlier slides. Okay, so you can see computer security seeks to prevent unauthorized viewing, confidentiality, or modification while preserving access. So this is a really good definition here. We are covering all the three principles of security in one sentence. Computer security seeks to prevent unauthorized viewing, that is confidentiality, or modification, that is integrity, while preserving access, that is availability. Correct? Access control is fundamental to security. We'll talk about it later. Threats are potential cause of harm. Threat can be used by human or non-human. Human threats can be malicious or non-malicious. Malicious threat can be directed or random attacks, right? Okay. Moving on. So this we have classified threats into natural cause and human cause. Natural cause can be fire, power failure. Human cause can be either benign intent or malicious intent. Benign intent is when you do harm to something, some company or someone without without any intentions. That is benign intent, like human error or something. Malicious intent is you are just randomly messing around, or you are trying to take some revenge or something on someone. Okay. Moving on. Okay. So type of attackers can be individual, hacker, terrorist, criminal for hire, loosely connected group, or organized crime group. Moving on. This is not an exam important thing to learn, but yeah. Yes. So we have come to the end of our first lecture. Let's talk about security threats and what kind of, let's talk about security threats in the next class. Meanwhile, please, we have some assignments for you. You can please go ahead and try to complete them. Use Google to the best extent possible, but do not copy paste stuff. Just try to like grasp the topic, understand what the question is asking, Google on it, and make some good answers. Small answers is sufficient. Small one-liners or two-liner sentences would be good enough. So, thank you. That is all I have for today, and let's speak on in the next class.